It is time. Welcome to today's webinar on bridging the gap with Gen AI Contact Center Intelligence, brought to you by CCW Digital and Sprinklr. I'm Brian Cantor, Principal Analyst for CCW, and your host for today's discussion. You can't connect with customers if you don't understand them. And in a world where customers are engaging for so many different reasons across so many different channels and expecting so much personalization and convenience, it takes more than ever to actually achieve this understanding. So let's face it, we're not there yet. Only 9% of contact centers right now say they're satisfied with how they're leveraging customer intelligence to drive business decisions. And that's a good reason why 95% saw improving analytics as a top priority for 2025. Now, improving analytics is not just a universal, generic contact center priority. It's also a specific focus for AI. It ranks as a top priority alongside, very common use cases like chatbots and real-time agent assist, and also represents a critical ROI measure for 81% of contact centers investing in AI. That means more than 4 in 5 contact centers are evaluating their AI investments and their AI transformation based on the value of the data that they're uncovering and how close it brings them to understanding and building that strong connection with their customers. However, if we don't recognize what's not working now, if we don't calibrate our actions against customer expectations, if we don't establish the right vision for success and implement the right technology for customers and employees, we're just going to be throwing more money and more time at the same problem and not getting any better. If we want to fix that, if we want to truly listen to our customers, truly amplify their voice, and truly elevate our experiences based on what they need, we have to do better. And that's what this webinar is all about. As we detail the changing customer landscape, we're going to look at some common misfires around analytics. And before defining the anatomy of good listening, the goal of why we're doing this, why we're trying to unlock customer intelligence, and then we're going to showcase a window into what AI can actually do. As a result of all this, we're going to be providing you with a roadmap for success. And as noted, that roadmap is going to come with an accompanying certificate in AI contact center intelligence to show you, show your team, and show the world that you know what it takes to go from knowing your customers are talking to hearing them and letting that drive your decisions. Now, as a reminder, you can ask questions at any time using the console on your screen. And today's session is being recorded so you can relive the experience, share it with your team, and do everything you need to get on the right track when it comes to listening to your customers. Without further ado, I want to introduce our speaker. So Logan, thrilled to have you here. Exciting topic. Tell us about yourself, your organization, and then why don't you kick us off with an agenda for today as well?
Amazing. Thank you, Brian, and appreciate that great intro. So Logan Margulis here. I run some of our solutions consulting teams here at Sprinklr, and we're heavily focused in the contact center space and how analytics and Gen AI are bringing more intelligence to life across the contact center and other functions within your organizations. So when we think about what we're going to be going through today, as Brian talked about, we're going to focus on the concept of customer service analytics, then dive into AI-powered quality management, touch on leveraging generative AI and how agentic AI and co-pilots are driving efficiency and better actionable insights in the contact center, and then move into understanding what that means and how that's applicable to true voice of customer, a few case studies, and then we'll talk about a little bit of a product showcase on how we're bringing that to life. So without further ado, back to you, Brian, on the interaction.
Yeah, so I think as you can see from the screen, the slide on your screen right now, as you pretty much know from being in the space, we know that customers are looking to engage across so many different channels. And, for those of you who follow CCW Digital, we just released our market study highlighting customer preferences for 2025. And as has been the case for so many years, the traditional voice phone channel still remains the most trusted option. So when customers have a service issue, that is where they ultimately believe they're most likely to get a resolution. But here's the thing, it's not necessarily where they wish they could be. It's not where they start. In fact, the majority of customers, when they have a problem, first want to get it solved digitally. And so clearly what that's telling you is that there's no one size fits all. There's no one channel where if you get that one channel right, you're going to appease all of your customers and move on. The truth is, customers want different channels for different use cases. Different customers go different places. It's all going to require a true omni-channel approach. Now, this is good on the one hand. It means you have opportunities for connecting with customers across a myriad of different channels. It means you have an ability to scale your operation. But when it comes to data, it can create some challenges as well. So, Logan, walk us through this idea of the omni-channel world, the way customers are interacting right now, and what it means for our ability to actually listen to them.
Yeah, Brian, that's a great point and question. And so when we think about how that impacts our customers, they're talking to us on 28 times more channels, and we're not really listening where they are today. When we think across, our traditional channels, like we talked about, voice, face-to-face interactions, and then the variety of social channels, messaging channels, forums, comments, communities, and reviews, these are all impactful areas that can change and adopt how we go to market as an organization and how we service our customers today. And that digital realm is something that is becoming holistically a part of the way that customers want to reach us. And we don't get to choose that. The customer determines how they want to interact with us and their expectations of their journey, all the way from top to bottom of the funnel when we support them in our contact centers.
Yeah, I think that's so important. I think what you also mentioned there is what channel they're choosing. Not only is that a reality that they're choosing the channel, but that itself is a form of listening, right? Like knowing where the customer wants to go tells you so much about who they are, who you need to be as a brand to be able to connect with them. And if you're not really set up to gather intelligence from these different channels and also look across these channels and determine how customers behave, you're not going to be designing the right experience. Forget not getting little quirks about their persona. You're not even going to know how to design a journey that they really want to use. And that can be devastating from a business standpoint. But let's say you do start to listen. You pay attention to this webinar, you focus on using intelligence correctly, you approach AI correctly. What are we ultimately trying to do? What exactly does our customers looking for in today's environment, right? Because if we're trying to listen to customers, we should know what they're expecting. So what is the expectation of today's customer?
Yeah, fantastic. And so when we look at our customers today, first and foremost, as we talked about on the prior slide here, it's being where they are. Like, where do they want to interact with us, whether it be voice, whether it be digital, whether it be messaging, whether it be on a Reddit channel or subreddit, where they're interacting with others about our brand, where we don't have necessarily full control of that conversation, but we're getting the best feedback. And second is being available whenever required. So we know that our support teams and our voice agents are working hard throughout the business hours, but could we be impacting and influencing, leveraging AI multi-agents or co-pilots for those customers to be there potentially when our agents aren't available, and then providing what they want. Our customers want specific information, and we're putting them, let's say, through an IVR tree or a chatbot flow with buttons to try to get them where they want to go. But what if they could just ask for what they want and get the answer they need in a faster period of time? Amongst different demographics, some want that answer faster and some want to be more conversational. And we need to leverage technology to get them what they want. And lastly, we need to listen to them. We need to understand where they're coming from, what they're seeking, where they want to go, and what they want to achieve in their interaction with our brand to ideally, hopefully, upsell them, right? Solve their case in less handle time, and also drive up that end-to-end customer CSAT or NPS scores with our brand. And those are the baseline expectations today.
Yeah, I think Logan, I don't want to discredit what you said because I think what you said there was really on point, and specifically point three. I love that point where you're really talking about providing what they want because as much as we want to act like there's one fact-based answer to every customer question, that's not true. It's not just yes, there may be one answer to the question, but so much of how the customer evaluates us is did we give them the answer that they were looking for the way they were looking to achieve it? Is it meant to be hyper conversational? Is it meant to be very quick and convenient? How is it delivered? How are we understanding their intent? How are we understanding the context? That matters a lot. But ultimately, I think a lot of this, be where they are, give them what they want, listen to them. This isn't necessarily like shocking. I wouldn't call this a hot take, like to say that you're trying to give customers what they're looking for. And yet the truth is, I started this webinar by saying that we're struggling with data. We wouldn't be having this discussion if organizations weren't not if their listening was perfect, right? And so, what are some of the reasons why, despite knowing we need to be where our customers are, we need to be available when they are, give them what they want, we need to listen to them, why contact centers just can't get the job done?
Yeah, so what we found is a lot of that, as you talked about, has to do with the data, right? They're unable to listen. So, for example, in some of the Forbes surveys, they're stating that 85% of content and customer service leaders, such as yourselves, are not satisfied with how things are being measured, right? 55% are unable to actually share actionable insights beyond basic reports to heads of their peers and business groups to facilitate changes in documentation or other items that would better drive a customer experience. And along with that, leaders are failing to predict and tailor the interactions to their customers. Think vis-a-vis old school chatbots, approaches to voice, etc. And they need to be able to personalize that information to better listen to the customers and understand what the customers are saying to them. And then lastly, we're hearing this a lot, and we heard this directly at CCW this year, that 60% of our contact center customers are struggling with AI that's not scalable, right? They led with, we need Gen AI, we need this, we need the other. But beyond the experiments, it was difficult to get that to scale to drive actionability, a better customer experience, and really end to end solve the customer's problem. So these are four areas where we're seeing a bit of a struggle and where our customers and prospects are coming to us to express a need for solutions that more effectively solve some of the customer pain points today.
Yeah, and I know you had a few more challenges or a few more ways in which this problem manifests itself on the next slide as well.
Yeah, 100%. And so when we think about why the contact centers are unable to listen to the customer feedback, right? And we think about that from a solution perspective. The first is a lot of contact centers today are really using holistically survey-based CX management, which is something that is always going to be post the conversation, right? But pre-conversation, they're not necessarily using intents or IVRs or things to really understand what's going to happen. And real time during the conversation, they're not leveraging agent nudges to understand how to take a next best action and other things like that. Additionally, that's leading to legacy and obsolete reporting that is only allowing them to make changes every 30 days or things like that, which impacts their ability to measure success. And when they're measuring it, it's solely based upon SLA, not all the micro moments in the conversation or areas in which they could be making prompt changes to right the wrongs that have occurred in the beginning of a purchasing process or conversation, which is then leading to really ineffective use of AI in the contact center. Because we know the way that AI is trained is leveraging data, actual conversations, voice calls, live chats, things like this that will make that more effective at scale. And when we don't have the base three pieces here on why the contact centers are not able to listen today, scaling artificial intelligence tends to be a bit more effective when we don't have the right base.
Yeah, and I think the other important thing to remember is that these aren't just challenges within the context, oh, you can't listen perfectly, but who cares, right? When you don't listen perfectly, it does manifest as a bad experience for customers. Our data that we at CCW Digital just uncovered shows that 60% of customers actually think experiences got worse this past year. Now, consider how much we talk about the importance of the customer experience, how much the contact center is increasingly being seen as a value center, how much transformative AI technology we have out there, all these tools at our disposal to make experiences better. Yet when push comes to shove, customers think it's headed in the wrong direction. And then you dive deeper and you see that more than 2/3 have problems with a lack of convenience. More than 3/4 say that it's not personalized enough, that they don't get to dictate where the interaction takes place. Frankly, they don't even feel experiences are friendly and warm, which should be table stakes in today's environment, right? So when you don't listen to your customers, you don't know who they are, where they want to go, how they want to interact, how they define success. It's not just like you don't have like a great report you can send your team. No, you don't have a great experience you can deliver for them. And it shows in the form of not only bad CCW digital survey data, but in the form of customer attrition. It shows in the form of lost revenue. It shows in the form of really affecting your business. And so it's so critical moving forward that we get the listening piece right. And once we start to get the listening piece right and we start to build the right experience, Logan, that's when we start to get to this point where we can achieve this 3-pillar philosophy of a great experience that I know is near and dear to your heart as well as the entire Sprinklr team.
Of course. Yeah, no, 100%. And I think that that aligns very well with our 3-pillar philosophy to enable brands to achieve some of the strategic objectives we talked about. First being holistically having the best experience is where our customers don't need them. Oftentimes we're starting by measuring agent SLAs and things like that, but envision a customer accesses a knowledge base or a shared forum or community where from a cost perspective, we don't have to invest in an agent call or something like that. But based upon insights through our contact center analytics, we're able to provide that content from a self-serve perspective. And then additionally, when that isn't solving it, when we think about AI agents and co-pilots for our customers, it's when our customers can help themselves. How can we drive adoption with our content from our knowledge bases, our community content, our website content, our product catalogs, and all these things in a frictionless agent approach that integrates with all of our internal systems so that our customers are adopting this in a more holistic way while they're getting a better experience. But for our cost in our contact center, we're driving a better P&L as well. And then lastly, of course, our great and fantastic agents that we're spending time onboarding across our tier 1s and tier 2s and tier 3s are when they're empowered to solve issues in the first interaction, when they have their co-pilot right next to them that's letting them know how they should be rewording their response or how they should be solving things, or recommended a guided workflow for them to issue a refund right there without transferring to multiple other agents and driving that true next best action for them. These are the ways that Sprinklr is helping our customers solve their most strategic objectives for their customers, leveraging the most innovative AI over the past 10 years, holistically in partnership with our generative AI partners and even our in-house large language models to drive that best experience from a customer interaction perspective, then an automated approach, and then on top of that, reducing our call or contact centers, cognitive load and onboarding for our agents by providing technology to make them more effective in their role, and in the end, solve for those customers' pain points.
Yeah. And so obviously, I think what I love, first of all, this is just a so obviously correct approach to the customer experience, right? There was that old adage years ago, the best contact center puts itself out of business. Now, I know that no one here wants to put themselves out of business. You have bills to pay and all that, but you understand the merit of that, which is that if you're able to really anticipate what customers are going to be interacting with, you could allow them to solve those problems on their own term. You can proactively deflect a lot of them and lead to the point where customers feel like they're not wasting time. They're not exerting extra effort. They're interacting with a brand that knows them and that acts for them and that makes it easy to do business. That alone is going to generate more revenue, more excitement, more satisfaction. And then, yeah, if it's not quite clear, if you can't quite get ahead of the problem, at least giving them the tools to solve it at their own time, on their own terms, that's going to mean a lot as far as building trust. And then finally, yes, if you're going to ask them to, okay, the self-service tool just wasn't working. It was a totally unique situation. We couldn't anticipate it. Fine, speak to the agent, but that agent should be an elevated experience. If all the agent is just giving you a generic chatbot experience, then that agent's not empowered and the customer doesn't feel like their time to get to that agent, their time to go through your journey was really worthwhile. And so ensuring that when they do reach that live person knows who they are, understands their sentiment, understands the context, and can really provide that hyper-personalized, very specific and empowering resolution. That's where you start to let them know that wherever they interact, they're going to get the appropriate balance of efficiency and customer centricity, and they're going to be working with a brand that cares about them. Now, we at CCW Digital, we think of this in terms of what we call the FP3 experience: frictionless, personalized, predictive, and proactive. And it's really the same thing here, right? At every moment of the journey, you should be thinking about how can we make this easier? How can we make it more relevant? And how can we anticipate and act on all the data we have? But regardless of how you phrase the model or what your ultimate tentpole is, ultimately, this all comes down to understanding who your customers are and what they want to do. And that ultimately comes down to an effective listening strategy, which is really where the power of technology can come into play. Because if you don't know what your customers are trying to achieve or where they're trying to achieve it, then you're not going to achieve any of these pillars, let alone all three. So it's really important to start to listen. And I know that, like, listening, again, as I said earlier, this is not just an exercise in, oh, feeling good or feeling like you know your customers or being able to send them a birthday card, although that's a really nice gesture. Maybe you should do it. But, it's not just about that, right? It's about actually measurable results for your business.
100%. And
Yeah.
just to add on to that, and as we move forward, with Sprinklr being an omni-channel platform, when we're listening, it's voice, it's messaging, it's social, it's across the board. And so we have that historical context for our next customer interaction that isn't siloed to our voice contact center team, our live chat contact center team, etc. So we can really provide that customer an experience, having their whole historical journey in a similar place. So when we recommend the next best action, it's not based upon the past 10 minutes, it's based upon the past 10 months. And that drives a loyalty perspective from that customer base that we may not have otherwise.
Yeah. And so, again, if you want, I know you have a detail of some of the results companies can expect as they start to get listening right, that, maybe you're going to move the needle for those who don't care about the soft stuff, but do care about, hey, what story can you tell your stakeholders and your boss? So what could some of these outcomes look like when you start to build in this direction?
100%. So what we see from our customer base really across all verticals today when they start to really listen is four key areas and four key really unique outcomes here, right? So the first is we're starting to steer, right, those customer interactions to a higher CSAT by holistically changing our strategy and how we listen. Second is we're actually driving a better agent experience for that agent, increasing their productivity when it does hit our contact center. And the quality of those conversations are starting to improve because we're enabling and providing our agents a partner in crime, if you will, for when they're engaging with the customer. And so even in every interaction, that CSAT score we talked about is increasing. Third, we're proactively actually addressing the customer issues and fixing gaps. So just envision from our listening, we're adding a message to our conversational IVR that says, no need to press 2. We already know we have this outage in this area. We're addressing it, and we'll reach back to you on your channel of choice when it's been solved. So no need to wait on the line for our agent, our agentic bot or our agent, right? And so these are things from a process and a product perspective that are allowing us to change the way that customers interact with our brand. And lastly here, it's that ongoing identification of opportunities where automation can come to play, whether that be for our agent, assisting them on how to respond, whether that be taking our knowledge base updates and arming what we call a RAG, retrieval augmented generation, in our agent to change how the agent engages in real time, or it's true transformation and product innovation. Maybe we're integrating our contact center systems with our Jiras or our Atlassian tools to recommend to our product and engineering teams that we need to change something. And our answer to the customer is, you're now in our roadmap for how we want to change our company. So these are things that, 5, 10 years ago, we never really would have thought of, as specific outcomes for really listening. But now our leading customers in the maturity curve, these are must-haves and must-have processes they need to develop to maintain their competitive moat in this hyper-competitive world.
Well, and what I like about these, obviously, I think we're all customer contact professionals are largely in this audience. So certainly number one, kind of it's obvious why that's important to all of us. But two is great because we think about, going back to your pillars approach, we think about the fact that assuming we are able to proactively resolve a set number of issues, assuming we are able to elevate the self-service experience, then we know that agents are going to be focusing on more nuanced, more complex, more challenging work. Now, on the one hand, yes, that's good for their intellectual stimulation, right? It means they're going to get fresher tasks, and that's an experiential benefit. But it also means that they're going to be dealing with a lot of challenging work, right? It's going to be customers who maybe are a little bit angrier, a little bit more emotional, a little bit more invested in the outcome. And that can be overwhelming. That can be draining, especially when the interaction goes wrong. So by arming agents with the tools to make sure it doesn't go wrong, to not only know the right answer quicker, but also be able to understand, hey, this customer's a little bit more upset, or this customer's been going through a lot more of a hard time to get here, maybe adjust your tone accordingly, it puts the agent in position to have a more harmonious interaction. And when the agent has a more harmonious and productive interaction, they feel happier, they feel more empowered, they feel more engaged, they feel more connected. And we keep agent satisfaction high, even as their work becomes more complex and theoretically more challenging. Now, 3 and 4 are great because we all talk about the contact center as a value center, right? And how can the contact center generate value outside of the customer interaction? And this is exactly where it can happen, because when you're talking about proactively addressing issues, you're not just saying, oh, this customer just bought our new phone. When they call, I bet they're contacting about the new phone. You're also saying this customer bought a phone that a million other customers had a problem with. By looking at data, we can let our teams know, hey, maybe we send out like a firmware fix, or maybe we alert them to, hey, this is a challenge a lot of customers are having here, so you can avoid it. So you're actually making your business better, you're generating better products, you're improving processes, you're improving communication, you're making the entire organization more successful as a result of contact center data. And that, to me, moving forward, is really where the contact center is going to become that value center. Is by being able to listen to the customer, you can then advise every business unit on how to do their function better. Marketing becomes more effective, sales cycles become shorter, and products become stronger. That happens when you can gather that data. So I love that we're not just saying, oh, the conversation is going to be a little bit more personalized and a little bit more friendly. We're saying our entire organization is going to design and deliver in line with our customers. And that's when you know you're on the right track to success. So absolutely excellent points here. And then on top of all this, when you listen, you add that human element back into the equation. You start to recognize customers not as customer number one with issue B, but instead Jim with this specific problem. And then when you treat him as Jim with that specific problem, he feels valued, he feels heard. The interaction is not only more productive, but also more efficient. Everyone's happy. You build a better experience. So again, listening is the key to unlocking so much success and so much value out of the contact center.
100%. And when we think about that, right, fostering that path, as we just discussed there in those 4 elements, from a CX intelligence perspective, I touched on this briefly before, but it's really that focus on taking that omni-channel interaction and feedback data across the holistic channels that exist in your organization, which may be a bit more siloed today, and leveraging AI, right, as that foundational layer to drive those outcomes. And 2 of those areas around that root cause analysis are both the customer side of the conversation with conversational analytics that allows us to understand and cluster the root causes and summarize that to drive action on that conversational data, whether that be voice, chat, social, etc. And then on the agent side, we know that the excuse me, agent audits of the conversation, we don't have 100% coverage today. So we want to automate that approach to identify agent action plans, training paths, and coaching opportunities in an automated way so that we can change that agent SOP and handbook to more effectively support our customers using technologies like large language models and clustering to really bring a holistic approach to both the customer side of the conversation and how our cross-functional groups can make changes to make that more impactful, but also ensure our agents have the needed coaching action items and live training to be able to be more effective in their roles with new technologies like co-pilots and other things that are making them more effective in their role. And and that overall drives a holistic and more precise powered contact center intelligence solution. So I touched on some of that in the previous slide, but really bringing 100% coverage to the conversations, leveraging generative AI to drive those root causes and recommended actions, right? Without that additional manual effort. Today, we have our back office resources who are, in call transcripts, searching, trying to find the right things. But envision having those root causes provided and then having our SMEs, subject matter experts across our functions, taking those actions proactively to drive our more strategic outcomes. So it's moving away from legacy metrics that we knew, like average handle time and NPS surveys, to more strategic outcomes like real-time predictive CSAT, first contact resolution, whether that be self-serve, agentic agents, or the agent, reducing company churn. So turning the contact center from a single conversation element to actually reducing churn of a company's products or employees, etc., and then actually driving conversion, being at the table for revenue. And on top of all of that, when we are doing these things, we need to be able to scale our analytical approach so that our supervisors, their leaders at a queue level, interaction level, and even their peers across the ecosystem are seeing the everlasting impact of our contact center and using that intelligence even at the C-suite or board level to make strategic decisions on investments in the organization moving forward. And that drives into our approach for how we go from the insights to the actionable insights, right? So we touched upon a bit those interaction insights across all the channels. What that leads to, right, is an entire holistic unified data layer. So when we think about what that means, right, that's from a listening perspective, right? That's our voice data, that's our social data, that's our interaction data. And that is really bringing product intelligence, even from non-mainstream channels like Reddit on top of voice via the customer feedback insights, and then bringing that all into, as I touched upon prior, a generative AI powered insights hub. So this allows us to drill down into segments of conversations and understand the common root causes, identify the common themes, and also drive actionability with next best actions. What we hear from a lot of our customers in the contact center is that they're getting all this data, they're getting all these insights, but where are they actually taking action? Where is this data going into other systems to drive engineering teams, marketing teams, business functions, go to market forward on those recommendations? And then in the contact center, providing a real-time command center to understand how they can make changes within their own function, whether that be at the agent level, a queue level, or a conversational level dashboards for them.
Yeah. So Logan, I know you have it's great to hear about it. I think that framework makes a lot of sense, but we want to show our audience here a little bit of a video example of what this would look like. So, let's let the video take it away.
Amazing. Looking forward to taking you through it.
Okay, Georgina. So let me just talk you through, I guess, how Sprinklr approaches generative AI, right? And AI from an architecture within our enterprise platform. So on the left-hand side, we have channels. So channels for us is around 35 out the box. So it's a truly omni-channel platform, which is built on a unified data layer, right? And that unified data layer is built purposely from the ground up through our platform first AI. Okay. So whether you are using Sprinklr's in-house AI since 2015, all the way from predictive analysis, clustering, similarity engines, anomaly detection, or whether using one of our generative AI best-in-class source model providers, be it Llama, Stability, or even third-party AI providers like OpenAI and Vertex, all of that is completely built in from the ground up, and that sits across our 4 product suites. Okay, so from there, there are 3 typical use cases. So use case 1 is that customers will often use Sprinklr's LMM because it's scalable. We've seen a big trend in the marketplace where businesses have built their own, but they're now starting to tap out of that, both from a technology as well as their own models. So you can do hybrid. Second one is bring your own keys, or as I say, bring your own model. So there's a few different options there, right? And then from there, we then look at 100 AI capabilities that sit right now within Sprinklr. The majority of these are what we call native AI capabilities. Those with the magic purple ones are generative AI. So you can see it's completely embedded in. This isn't something we've been doing over the last 2 years, right? It's inherently built in our platform. So let's just talk about some use cases and some examples. So let's say I'm a data analyst or I'm a marketer and I want to understand conversations that are happening around Jetstar, which is a budget airline here in Australia. Typically you build out keywords, very labor intensive, quite manual to do that. However, now I can use generative AI. So let's say I want to optimize that, right? And go, let's use Jetstar, build out a brand query. I'm going to just say here it's for social listening. And then what will happen is the model then automatically build out that topic. So you can now see we've got check-in, boarding, customer service, luggage. It's relevant now to the airline industry. So that's one. And then if we then look at how that then gets applied to a listening dashboard, so I've built the topic and now I want to look at those micro moments within a customer journey, I can now use the magic wand and create a summary on these 2,800 mentions around the mobile app, the website, the travel agents, word of mouth, what's happening in terms of sponsorship. So this will now give us an overview without having to manually go into every single conversation, write up my 5 bullet points of what's happening across the data set. So this is going to, drive both production and workflow efficiencies internally. Okay, so now you can see exactly what's happened there. I could provide feedback, I can pin it, I could add that to a PowerPoint or a PDF or another real-time dashboard. The other one, which I really love, is what we call Insights Copilot. So this will actually look at a complete summary of the whole dashboard. So this is the digital version of you, right? And this is your own data analyst. So I can ask this absolutely anything, and it will give me that insight pretty much immediately, right? So again, a huge time saver, especially for insights and marketeers. Now let's have a look at service. So this is our omni-channel agent desktop. So I've got lots of different cases coming here for live chat and WhatsApp and Meta and so forth. So this is one case coming in from Facebook where customers come in and said, I've got an issue with the order. Parcel's arrived, it's damaged, right? So from here, I've already written my response for an agent, but I can use the magic wand again to then modify the tone. Maybe I want to make it more relaxed. Maybe I want to provide a different iterations because I'm not happy with that, right? From there, there's other things I could do. I've got translation capabilities. I could simplify the language. I could fix spelling. I could use some of Sprinklr's native AI to check whether it's on tone from a tone of voice. I could also create an AI summary against the case to make sure that if I'm picking up this case, I've got context to that. And also we have our own native AI looking at predicted CSAT, where it can actually track the CSAT from a measurement throughout that case, right? So lots of capabilities just in there, as well as, things like agent nudges. So this is also like guided scripts through, workflows, guided workflows to help the agent resolve the case quickly to drive down things like AHT. Okay, so there's some generative AI and native AI. And then if you look at digital twins, so rather than using dialogue trees, which are an absolute nightmare to manage depending on how complex they are, we can now bring in data management through knowledge bases. Maybe we want to point this to a website to then pick out all the information. So if you've got, let's say, 500 plus index website pages, I can do that. So this is one that we've built for Dubai Police. So I could say, I have lost my wallet. So you can see there's no buttons there. It's completely mimicked to look like and feel like you're speaking to a human being. So I can keep going with this, right? So there, yeah, I want to report. And then again, I can optimize it. And this is even before you deploy it, right? In a kind of like a sandbox environment. And obviously you have guardrails in there as well. What we often find is use case driven. So out the box, we now have, generative AI purpose-built use cases built for every single vertical. So again, speed to market, built-in asset manager, campaign manager, it's all out the box, which is fantastic. And if you go on our own website, we actually have generative AI built in and conversational AI built in here. So that, again, this is using our public-facing knowledge bases. So I can ask any question in here, tell me about Sprinklr service, and it will give us full context to what's in both capabilities as well as some technical questions. So yeah, hopefully that helps.
And that was great, Logan. Yeah, I think that really starts to help our audience embody that this is not just two guys up here ranting about what needs to happen with intelligence, but this is a real solution that's in the market right now that is transforming the way contact centers get to know their customers, get to understand their behaviors, and most importantly, get to act on that understanding to deliver better experiences. As we wrap up here, Logan, anything you want to share for our audience?
I would say that the innovation curve is moving faster than ever. And as an omni-channel organization, starting to build in the cloud 10 plus years ago, artificial intelligence to improve customer CX. And in the past 5 years, of course, bringing voice in is as a key component to driving that CX journey. There's nothing moving faster than organizations like ours and our ability to innovate, leveraging AI agents, co-pilots, and other effective approaches from a technology perspective to drive customer CSAT, customer loyalty, and a new world for how contact centers operate, not just as a cost center, but as a holistic partner to help drive organizational change and digital transformation for our customers and future prospects to come.
Yeah, well, Logan, I want to thank you and the Sprinklr team so much. Again, as we highlighted here, customer listening is a pretty self-explanatory concept when it comes to understanding our customers and taking our businesses to the next level. But unfortunately, it hasn't been a readily achievable one. The reality is contact centers, as you mentioned, are struggling to not only listen to customers across all channels and unify that intelligence, they're struggling to differentiate between different intentions and what they mean in context. They're struggling to even measure their success. And when you can't do any of that, you can't design better experiences. You can't make interactions more personalized. And most importantly, you can't really drive better business decisions. You can't grow in a more customer centric direction. Now, the beauty here is that the tools exist by leveraging AI correctly, by leveraging a partner like Sprinklr that will enable you to look across not only just like one stream of interactions in a journey, but the totality of your relationship with that customer. You're able to really understand, okay, who is this customer? What do they value? And when they interact, what is it going to be for? And using all that information, you can then achieve that 3-pillar approach. You can start to say, how can we make it so they don't even have to ask us for help because we're so dialed into what they're going through that we can bring the experience to them? Okay, but let's say maybe what we brought to them doesn't perfectly solve everything. Fine. They come in, they have a little bit of help. Let's give them the tools to solve the problem on their own. They want to do it at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday. Let them do it at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday from the comfort of their phone using a self-service tool. That's something we can do as well. And then finally, if they want that extra special attention, if they have that complex issue, we make it so that when they do have to ask for that live agent knows them, understands them, is ready for them, and can have a productive interaction that makes the customer feel happy and doesn't create friction for the agent. Doing all that is going to get you to the point where not only are you moving to a better customer experience, but you're really getting all you need to avoid problems in the future. So when you think about that next iteration of your company's flagship product, it's designed with the customer journey in mind. It's designed with these fail points in mind, and it makes it better. So that cycle, again, no matter where you sit in your organization right now, whether you're very much on the front lines trying to tweak those interactions a little bit, or whether you're in the C-level trying to build a better, more lucrative business, it all starts with customer listening, and customer listening all starts with having the right platform, having the right vision. Logan, thanks again for sharing what that vision looks like. Thanks to all of you for your interest in getting there. And on behalf of CCW Digital and Sprinklr, it's been such a pleasure to share this with you. Go out there, get in touch with your customers, and build that better experience.
Brian, it's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you for partnering today on this. And we look forward to future conversations on the contact center and digital transformation with our customers and anyone on this webinar to come.